My guest today is Alex Faisman, creator of the Reading Buddy app, Buddy, which is used by over 400,000 families all over the world. Alex has also authored some books. Some of them are in bilingual editions. He's also illustrated these books. They are for children and they are encouraging literacy and helping children to read. Alex, welcome to the Homeschool Ways podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, as a homeschool educator with over 13 years of experience, I'm always on the lookout for new tools to help my audience. My children obviously are teenagers. We don't need to learn to read anymore, but I love creative tools that teach phonics in a fun way. Please tell me a little bit about your background and what sparked your passion for writing whimsical children's books like The Sad Princess.
Okay, good question, actually. Interesting to answer. Hope it will not take like too much time. I was drawing like for like 55 sub plus years. I never learned kind of to draw like in a formal way. So, but I always liked drawing. A long time ago, I was teaching in school, so and I still remember this was a very like inspiring experience for me. Uh, and after teaching, like every other work, kind of felt a little bit boring. Also, software development can be interesting as well. So sometimes, so I'm a software developer in my kind of during my day time, and when I'm free, I'm drawing, I'm writing books for children recently, and I also published like serious book for grown-ups. It was published in Moscow right before this big ugly war just started. Um, so. Did I answer the question or I forgot something?
Yes, you did. So you've been writing for a while, you've been drawing for a while. The creative bug, the virus is in you, has been there for a while. And I guess as a father, that has inspired you to sort of focus more on children's books.
Yes, that's true. Like I have four children, and also I've worked for a long time with a company who is trying to help children with autism. And so Reading Buddy was published by Imagination software company, which is a kind of small research company which is trying to help children with autism. There are scientists who work in this company. They try to understand how, uh, what are the root causes for autism and whether any ways to help children kind of to get more involved in this world where they can respond, answer question, to get interested in the life around them. Like for those children, is the most difficult thing, how to get them out of this bubble. And I know for many parents, this is a huge problem. Uh, so part of my interest is related to that. Like even before Reading Bodies, there are some other applications which are used by pre-applications. They use like by millions people. I don't know how many, 1 or 2 million, something like that, probably worldwide. Uh, so they work on iOS, on iPhones and Androids and so on. So they're free. Uh, so this is kind of a long story. Creating products for children and for small children because like this human mind, like 5 years old human, actually is a whole world. Especially I know like those parents who have children with autism, they can feel it. They can feel it. Like there is a huge world behind this kind of glass bubble, and it is so hard to get through.
Mhm.
So, and this was another source for me, like which kind of forced me to work on the content for small children as well.
Yeah, I'm fascinated also by the early learning process, the early learners, and it's very interesting. My very first episode on this podcast was with an author from the UK, and she wrote a book about coding for preschoolers, but not with computers, with activities, with hands-on activities. No wonder Raspberry Pi Press published this book. They worked together on publishing this book, and Princess Catherine wrote to her at the end of the year because it's such a big breakthrough. And Princess Catherine is interested in early learning. She has had this interest ever since she became a mother. Of course, her children are no longer that young, but she's still
Mhm.
interested in the early learning process. I think we should all focus on that. And there's a whole subject of autism that I'm not going to touch on, but let's still stay with the early learning. A lot of your books are retellings of classic um, fairy tales, written by Anderson and others. For instance, you've got Jack and the Beanstalk, and
Yes,
that comes in an edition with Tell Me the Languages.
Ukrainian language, also Russian, also probably Hindi is going to, translation going to be worked on. Actually, today somebody asked me whether this book can be translated to Hindi.
Yeah.
Um, and the Snow Queen, of course, it's a retelling of the classic story as well. But there are some original stories as well.
Yes, yes. So you've got some retellings like the Snow Queen, Jack and the Beanstalk, and then you've got some original stories like the Sad Princess, right? That is something that you came up with based on something that happened with your children. Tell me about it.
Hmm. I don't recall anything like connecting directly with my children. It's more, I was trying to create a world, kind of a perfect world, when girls are very clever princesses. The girls like to learn, they are getting married, and everybody is happy, and the world is kind of interesting and fun, no wars, and uh, it's just kind of I was trying to get like to create a book for a girl to look at and kind of to gasp, oh, I want to be like that. So, and my princess, she is visiting labs. Some, some of the pages. My princess in the chemistry lab, and she's in a library, and eventually, she's getting married, of course. And there are cakes and fireworks.
Right.
So,
So I liked, I think you and I were talking about this, and it was more about spelling magic that you saw your children learning how to read and spell, and then you realized, and I don't want to give away too much, I don't want to spoil too much of the book plot, but you came up with the wizard who was doing things to words to help out
oh
the
yes,
princess, and it was based on something that your children were saying to you, like it's like magic. Spelling is like magic.
actually yes. You reminded me. Yes, there is that part too. Yes. So playing with words, playing with letters and meanings, how
Yes,
a single letter can change the meaning,
yes.
making kind of this reading word by word, even reading is pleasurable and interesting. Actually, I, now I understand, thanks to your question, like I'm trying kind of to marry those two different worlds, like uh, imagination, like pure fantasy, like fairy story, and thinking at the same time, even science. So the book I'm currently working on is called Little Angels Love Science, for example, and I'm trying to trick small children into loving sciences like math and chemistry and nuclear physics and so on, all by showing them, some pictures,
Okay.
basically.
So again, the title of that book is something about angels, little angels.
Little Angels Love Science. So I can show
Love
you the draft. So, and you know, it's probably like 70% done, maybe 80%. So,
Well, that's exciting. So we'll watch for that, and I will put some links in the show notes for our readers to get to your books on Amazon. We are about to get back to the show, but I want to take a few moments to say thank you to my audience for listening. Spotify has noticed that you all are listening to my podcast, and every year they give out Wrapped Awards. Speaking of spelling, it's WRAPPED, so that kind of wrapped, like when we finish a recording and we say it's a wrap, okay, that kind of wrapped. So the stat is that if Spotify looks at their numbers and sees that a podcast has been downloaded 2 episodes or more in one day by at least 20% of the audience, then they call that a binged show and they give the creator an award. So 2025 binged show. My podcast received that award. They sent me a badge. It was this whole presentation they did. It was very humbling. And I'm very grateful to the audience because for me, my stats were over 25%. So over 25% of my audience has downloaded at least 2 shows in one day, and that makes it a binged show. So the Homeschool Ways podcast is a 2025 binged show award recipient from Spotify. Thank you, Spotify. Thank you to my audience. And I want to invite everybody, if you value from my content, please subscribe. That way you'll get notifications for future content, whether you are listening to the video and watching the video podcast or whether you are looking at this on YouTube. Subscribe. That way you can get notified for future content because I am dedicated to giving you tools for homeschooling. And so let's get back into the show, your Reading Buddy app. Maybe 10 years ago, I would not have been interested in a reading app because the technology of reading, I knew it was out there, of reading apps, was not as interesting to me as an actual physical book. There's a lot of research, and we can talk a lot about the difference between holding a physical book and holding an iPad or a tablet and reading a book. However, I feel like we have reached a point in human history and civilization where we can supplement physical books with a lot of these books. And I got your app, Alex. I opened it up. I went through several books and I like what it does. So, just to tell the audience, it is a free app, right? On Google
yes,
Play or the App Store.
yes,
And you can listen to stories while you're watching the words on the screen. So, not that you want to replace a parent with this app, but you can supplement. Let's say you're running late for something and you need your child to sit still on the couch for 10 minutes so you can apply makeup as a mom or get a bag together, or that's the perfect time to just, here's a book, and let it hear. The child will hear, even if they can't read. If they can read a little bit, they can follow along. And so it's just a good reinforcement for a real book. Tell me more about the app. How did you come up with the idea? And I think you have a collaborator for this.
yes. Like the my partner, like he's a scientist, neuroscientist from Boston University, and Andrei Vyshevsky. So we worked with him together on multiple applications for children with autism, like I said. And for this particular one, I just had a personal experience. Like I was trying to help a child with difficulty to learn how to read, and we used a Disney application when like he was looking, like the boy was looking at the screen, at the pictures, and he saw the text and he saw the highlight moving alongside with the sound being kind of played back. And this made actually the connection. So I know that for this particular boy, this was extremely helpful. This was, made a huge difference. And then this Disney application, it disappeared somewhere, and I decided, to write my own. And so AI was kind of coming together at the time, like text to speech, speech to text, all those technologies. And I worked with IBM Research for many years on text to speech and speech to text. Uh, so I knew actually, what is possible. So I put together this application, and it allows you, yes, it allows a child to hear the book, to listen and to watch the highlight moved across the text. But it also allows, there is a mode, you can select a mode when a parent just can just use the same application and just read by herself or himself. The same stuff. Basically, well, you can turn off this computer voice. So there are like a couple options. Computer voice in some, in all books, in all of the books. In some books, there is also human reading, which is great and artistic reading. And in also there is an option to turn the audio, the sound off, and hopefully parent will like to read or maybe retell the story to the child as well. So this was the idea, and some of those books from the apps they made to the printed versions, including The Girl of and the Sea, like TV Story, oh sorry, TV Story, and many others. Like there are probably five. I don't even remember like how many books I have now.
You have a lot because I could not get through all of them as I was preparing for the show. I was like, this is a lot. This is great.
Yeah, and partially because of this application. So application is an easy way to explore, just to put something together. So there are books in this app about history, about how a tree grows, how like a seed can be planted and how it grows into a huge tree, uh, about art, about how a child can draw a cow, like in very, very different ways. So all of those little stories potentially can become a printed books one
Right.
day.
And see, this is where I'm also evolving as a person, myself as an educator. I started out very staunchly against screens, against technology, against apps, because especially for young children, I was just going with the advice from the American Academy of Pediatrics, up to age 2, no screens. 0 to 2, no screens. Babies need to be held. Babies need to touch little, well, big toys so they don't put them in their mouth and swallow them. They need to interact in the 3D world. However, as they get older, they were like, oh, 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day of screens is a long time. However, 10 minutes, like I said earlier, you got to do something. You got to put something on the table to feed the kids. As a homeschool mom, you do it all. And then you got to answer the phone. You got to have your child safe somewhere with maybe a toy, a snack, or a reading app. Why not? A reading app where they can hear a story, see the words, watch the illustrations. I like the illustrations. They're very whimsical. And I like the like you were describing earlier, it's a perfect world. You want to step into that world. You want to have a princess and there's a bit of magic. Things possible. That childhood magical thinking. And I love the fact that you can have two modes. Like you said, the computer can read to the child, or the parent can
Yes,
sit there with
yes,
the
yes.
child and read the story to the child. So, and of course, step 3 is the child reads back to the parent, right, when the time comes. And a lot of times in schools, I notice they have they bring in people that the kids can read to, or they read back to the teacher. You got to have that step three as well in the learning process.
Yes, yes, I agree. And I think that those screens, as any human invention, it's like 51% harm and 49% it's good. So I'm trying to use those inventions. I'm trying to remake, recite those 49%. And those inventions are AI, text to speech, speech to text, like all those computer drawings, tablets, all that stuff. I know that they should not be. In some cases, they are hard to replace. Like sometimes not because you want to focus on something else and just leave your child with a screen and forget for 5 minutes about everything, uh, not because of that, but just sometimes you need some additional tool.
Hmm.
It can be anything. It can be a screen, it can be an open window, some distant music. It can be just one little spark can be enough for a child to start kind of to love reading. So one spark, and after that, if this spark will come from the screen, fine, and then throw the screen to the garbage. But the work was done. So what I was trying to do is to give this kind of allow this option for this kind of random, tiny miracle.
Yeah.
When I personally loved reading, just something tiny happened, and I don't even remember what it was. Um,
Yeah, but like you said, there's a spark. And if a tablet with a reading app can give that spark, then the tool has done its part.
yes, yes,
Tell me, when you look at the future, I know, so you're working on that book with the little angels who like science.
right.
Anything else, any kind of tech twist that you're thinking about adding to the app?
Uh, Possibly, like because I spent last few months on working on those printed books and printing them and learning all this process. I was not, I just didn't have enough time to work on the app. But if I will see actually, I need to check. So like 500,000 people, maybe, it's a good enough kind of inspiration to continue to work on that. So I would try maybe other languages. What I would love to do, there are certain things which you can do in the app, but you cannot do with any printed books. Like, for example, there is a kind of this electronic book in the app about sounds made by birds. So when you
Mm,
see a picture of like nightingale and another picture of nightingale, and you have kind of those little buttons, and
mm-hmm.
those are recordings of the real nightingale, and then you have the lyrebird like from Australia, and you have mockingbird and all of those. So you see the real sound. You can't do this with the printed text, right? But
Yeah.
I did it with the app. So the app, and there are sounds made by animals and sounds made by humans also, like human laughter, human singing. When you put them all together, it's a little electronic book. You cannot replace it by a printed book. That's another reason why sometimes those screens can be helpful.
Yes, I love the idea of sounds, bird sounds. I I was recently introduced to a Chinese English book, bilingual English Chinese book, and they had little play buttons next to the Chinese words so you can hear the pronunciation. That's exactly what you're talking about. So I
Yes,
love
yes.
that.
What I would love to do is maybe little those kind of electronic kind of quote unquote book about music and about human voice, how how human voice, same voice can express like maybe gentleness, maybe like curiosity, love, lullaby, just couple 5 seconds of lullaby, then 5 seconds maybe of something else. And those are the musical instruments. It's a small thing. It's easy to do. Unfortunately, I don't have enough for the musical. I don't have musical, but maybe I'll, somebody will can help me with that. I would love to do that. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this for more than whatever, a couple of years already.
We'll have to have you back on the show when after you've upgraded the app more with these sounds, and then we'll have another conversation, and it will be very exciting and useful to little kids or bigger kids to hear these sounds. I think we are woefully walking away from being in touch with nature, and that might spark again that curiosity of, hey, I want to go to the forest. I want to hear this bird for real? Is there a zoo? Is there a an animal sanctuary that mama can take me to? You know.
Yes.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming onto the Homeschool Ways podcast. I'm very excited to share your links in the show notes with my audience so they can find you. Please tell them any way they can get in touch with you, social media, website.
Okay, the question is, I have a few books on Amazon. This application, hopefully it will grow. I wish everybody to have fun and that's a beautiful time when you can help children to grow. So when they going to grow up, you're going to miss the time. Don't, try to use it now wisely while you can. That's a kind of actually best thing, one of the best things probably you can do in life.
Yes, thank you. Well said. Thank you very much. And again, the reading app is called Reading Buddy, Buddy. And we wish you the best. And let's talk again maybe next year or in 2027 after you've upgraded the app even more. Thank you again for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank you.